Why emptiness in Buddhism isn't what you think. The Buddha's clear view, our empty world. When the word emptiness appears in Buddhist discussions, many people's first thought is about a void, a space where nothing exists. They might think it means a lack of value, or that something has completely disappeared. This is often the natural understanding carried from daily life. However, this interpretation does not match the profound insight the Buddha offered. There is a deep story in the Sunya Sutta, the discourse on emptiness. Ananda, a close student of the Buddha, once asked a question that many might also wonder about. Ananda said, "Lord, people say the world is empty. What does this mean? In what way is the world empty?" Ananda sought a clear explanation of this concept, which could seem complex. The Buddha's answer was very direct. He replied, "Ananda, the world is called empty because it is empty of a self. It is empty of anything belonging to a self. Therefore, Ananda, the world is said to be empty." This answer carries great meaning. The Buddha did not state that the world does not exist. He stated it is empty of something very specific, a fixed, independent self, or any fixed thing that belongs to such a self. This understanding helps to see that this emptiness is not an absence. It is simply a clearer view of reality. Imagine a stage in a theater. It stands ready, full of potential, but it is empty of a permanent play or a fixed story. No single performance remains there forever. Yet, countless stories can happen on that stage. The world is like that stage. It is full of life and activity, but it is empty of a rigid, unchanging story or a fixed core essence that controls everything. This idea simply invites a closer look at things as they truly are, with fresh eyes. The Buddha's teaching here is about accuracy. It is not about taking something away. It makes clear that nothing experienced, no person, no object, no feeling, possesses a fixed, independent core that never changes. This deep understanding is the starting point for inquiry. It guides away from confusion. It moves towards true freedom and peace. This powerful statement naturally leads to a deeper question. What exactly does it mean for the world, and everything in it, to be empty of a self or anything belonging to a self? To truly grasp the Buddha's profound wisdom here, one must explore the basic nature of existence. This exploration will specifically look at the teaching of dependent arising, called Pratītyasamutpāda. This is the logical foundation. It explains why emptiness is the very truth of reality. This understanding helps to see oneself and everything around in a completely new way. It gently removes the heavy illusions that often cause suffering. The mistake of a solid core. Our minds have a strong natural habit. We often see everything as having a solid, unchanging core. This core is like a true, independent nature that makes a thing what it is, separate from all else. In Buddhist terms, this idea is called svabhava, or inherent existence. For example, we might believe a tree has an unchanging treeness. We think a chair has a fixed chairness. And what we call I feels like a permanent me inside, a distinct self that stands alone. Imagine a beautiful song you love. You might feel its songness is solid and real. But if you look closer, the song is just sounds, silence, rhythm, and your own memories. None of these parts is a fixed, independent song essence. Our minds often create this sense of a solid core for everything we experience. This projection can be a hidden trap. It makes us see things as separate, solid, and lasting. In truth, they are not. This is true for objects around us, and it is true for our own experience. This way of seeing things often causes us to hold on too tightly and then suffer. Recognizing this deep, often unseen habit of our mind is the first step to understanding emptiness. This mistaken belief forms the base of much of our suffering because it goes against the way reality truly works. Now, let us truly test this idea of a solid core. If something really had an inherent, independent nature, it would logically need to be permanent. It would never change. And it would be completely under our control. Why? If it depended on anything else, or if it changed, it would not truly be inherent or independent, would it? An inherent essence would not be affected by outside forces or by decay. Think about what we normally call ourselves. Consider your body. Does it stay the same? No, it changes. It ages. It gets sick. Can we completely control it to never feel pain or grow old? We cannot. Consider your feelings. Are they permanent? No. Joy passes, sadness appears, and then fades. Can we command them to always be pleasant? We cannot. Consider your thoughts and plans. Do they stay fixed? No. Our opinions change, our wants shift. Can we control every single thought? We cannot. The Buddha deeply understood this. He shared this understanding with his first 5 students in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the discourse on the not-self characteristic. This teaching came shortly after his enlightenment. It was a vital part of their journey to awakening. He showed them that our body, feelings, perceptions, mental patterns, and consciousness are not a fixed self. He gave them a clear logical test. If, monks, form were self, it would not lead to affliction, and one could say, "Let my form be thus, let my form not be thus." The Buddha's teaching aimed to clearly show the absence of a permanent, controllable self within our experience. He wanted his students to see that these parts of us are impermanent. They are subject to suffering. We cannot fully control them. This shows that they cannot be an inherently existing self. This teaching helped his students reach true freedom and release from clinging. The logic is clear. Everything we experience, including what we typically call our self, does not stay the same. It changes. We cannot fully control it. Since nothing is permanent, stable, and completely controllable, it logically cannot possess an inherent, independent, solid core, or essence. This is why what we call us and everything else is empty of such a fixed nature. It exists, but without that fixed, independent core. This understanding is not about you ceasing to exist. It is about understanding that you exist as a dynamic, flowing process. You are free from the heavy, impossible task of being a fixed, unchanging being. This brings profound relief. It is like dropping a heavy stone you did not know you were carrying. Everything connected, the logic of dependence. The Buddha's teaching goes deeper, revealing a universal truth, Pratītyasamutpāda, or dependent arising. This principle states that absolutely nothing, no object, no event, no experience, exists on its own. Everything comes into being in dependence on causes and conditions. The principle of dependent arising is central to the entire Dharma. It is the very heart of the Buddha's enlightenment. He repeatedly showed its importance. He famously stated, "One who sees dependent arising sees the Dhamma. One who sees the Dhamma sees dependent arising. The Buddha also gave us a clear, foundational summary of this principle. When this is, that is. From the arising of this, that arises. When this is not, that is not. From the cessation of this, that ceases. This short phrase appears in many contexts. It explains the causes and effects of suffering and how suffering ends. It also explains the nature of all things. The Buddha taught this principle in countless talks to monks and lay followers. He shared it in many places to explain the complex and conditional nature of all reality. This ranged from the smallest blade of grass to the most complex emotions. The Buddha's aim in teaching dependent arising was to show the intricate, conditional nature of all existence. He wanted to reveal that things do not just appear by chance. He also wanted to show that they do not have a fixed, independent nature. This understanding provides the logical base for ending ignorance. It cuts off the roots of craving and holding on. This leads to complete freedom. Consider a beautiful flower. Does it exist by itself? No. It needs a seed. It needs rich soil, pure water, warm sunlight, clean air, and time to grow. Its existence relies completely on countless other things. If you remove any of these conditions, the flower will not grow, or it will die. Its existence is fully connected to others. There is no independent flower essence that stands apart from its conditions. Here is the profound logic. If everything must come into being in dependence on other things, then it logically cannot possess its own inherent, independent nature, svabhava. If something truly had an inherent nature, it would not need causes and conditions to exist. It would simply be by itself, without relying on anything else. But the Buddha shows us that everything is conditional. Everything is connected. Everything changes because of these conditions. Therefore, everything is empty of inherent existence, empty of that fixed, independent essence. This is the very essence of emptiness. It is not that things do not exist. It is that they are empty of existing in a fixed, independent way. Their existence is like a grand, intricate web. Nothing is a separate, solid thing. Instead, everything is a dynamic event, a continuous flow, completely woven together with everything else. This applies to the smallest particle, to the vast universe, and to every aspect of our experience, including our own sense of self. Now, the Buddha's original statement, "The world is empty of a self or of anything pertaining to a self," becomes perfectly clear. The world is empty not because it does not exist, but because it lacks a fixed, inherent, independent self or essence for anything within it. Every person, every object, every experience, every thought, each is a product of this dependent arising. Nothing has an independent self or core that makes it permanently this thing or that person. Everything is empty of that solid, fixed core our minds often mistakenly imagine, precisely because everything is dependently arisen. This insight brings deep peace. When we stop trying to force reality into fixed, separate categories, we relax into the natural, flowing beauty of existence. We understand its true nature. It removes the pressure to find something solid where there is only flow. This leads to acceptance and ease. Emptiness, the path to peace and love. The understanding that nothing has a fixed, independent core changes how we experience life. When one truly sees that everything is empty of inherent existence, and everything arises depending on causes and conditions, a deep shift happens. The strong tendency to grasp and hold on to things naturally loosens its grip. People stop demanding that life, others, or even themselves must stay a certain fixed way. This is because they understand that trying to hold on to something that is fluid and without a fixed nature only brings pain. This does not mean becoming unfeeling or detached from life. Quite the opposite. People experience life more fully. They do so without the painful hold of believing in permanent illusions. They can appreciate beauty without needing it to last forever. They can love deeply without clinging to the other person as a fixed being, instead embracing their true changing nature. This understanding opens the way to true inner freedom. It is a freedom from anxiety and disappointment. The Buddha taught that freedom from suffering comes from ending craving. This teaching is a basic part of the Four Noble Truths. He first spoke of this in his very first sermon to his first 5 students, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, or Setting in Motion the Wheel of Dhamma Sutta. This sermon gave the entire plan for the Buddhist path to freedom. The Buddha's aim was to find the real cause of suffering, craving, and holding on, and show that when this cause is removed, suffering stops. Understanding emptiness is the deepest way to let go of craving. This is because one no longer wrongly believes there is a fixed thing to grasp or own, or a fixed self to protect. This removes the very reason for craving. This deep wisdom does not make life meaningless. It makes life intensely meaningful. It frees one to appreciate life's beauty with open hands. It allows one to be truly present with life's changing nature, free from the heavy chains of illusion. Furthermore, if there is no fixed, independent core in anything, and everything is connected through dependent arising, then the hard walls we mistakenly build between me and you simply dissolve. We see our shared impermanence. We see our shared reliance on conditions. We see our shared journey of existence. We understand that, in truth, we are not separate. When one truly understands this deep connection, boundless compassion naturally appears. One realizes that the suffering of others is not separate from one's own well-being. Wishing for the happiness and freedom of all beings becomes a natural, logical, and heartfelt action. This comes from seeing reality clearly, knowing we are all part of the same connected fabric of existence. There is no other to dislike or fear. This insight is warm and unifying. It makes isolation disappear. It allows the heart to open fully, embracing the entire world with real care, understanding, and kindness. Emptiness, far from being cold, is the wellspring of unconditional love and deep connection with all life.